Peter, that was a great presentation, and it's a very hard act to follow. But I want to talk to you about the future of TETRA and what it means to you. Now, the investment that you make in a mission-critical network is a big, big bet. You're betting on a number of things. 3 questions get asked commonly to me. Are you, the manufacturer, going to be around for a long time to support me when I roll out this network and when this has all been deployed? Are your products going to last a long time? And is this standard going to be around for a long time? I'm going to talk to the third point there, because I think it's vital for the investments that you make that you understand what's going on in TETRA, and that you understand from the investments that the manufacturing community are making that is a vibrant, dynamic, and growing standard. If we take a look at the features, 1996 TETRA is not today's TETRA. It has been consistently improving in the standards, and great standards works there, and it is being enriched all the time. That is set to continue, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing on top of that. But the great thing about it is it's deployed in over 100 countries, 118, I believe, countries TETRA is deployed. So it has the economies of scale that we can pass on to the end users. But it's the right level of scale. Unlike a cellular world where scale means billions of people, which means you have very little voice, scale means, in this industry, you have a large voice. You impact the standards. You drive the features that you see behind me. That is the thing that you have and the control you have of the TETRA standard. Before I go on talk about that, I want to talk about value. I do a very simple little test when I speak to customers throughout the world. I say, the radio has one job, to protect the officer's life. That is its primary function. It is the lifeline. Be heard, be connected, be located, be effective. That's all very well and good. But let's do a little thought experiment. I ask a hypothetical question. Radio versus gun. What do you choose? Some countries, officers don't carry many guns. Some countries, most of the population carries guns, so the officers carry guns. And in those countries, the question is interestingly answered. That's no problem. It's the radio. I carry the radio. I've used the gun maybe never in my career or drawn it from the holster once in 10 years. And I got that from a New York police officer. Very, very clear about the preference. The radio is the lifeline. Okay, let's take it up a notch. What about protective armor, stab vests, etc.? Radio or protective armor? If you had to choose and you had no choice. Again, I'll be on that radio before that protective armor needs to be used. The radio is what protects me as an officer first, so we don't get into a situation where I have to rely on body armor. And quite frankly, unless I'm wearing a suit of medieval armor, I'm always vulnerable in a situation where it gets out of control. So let's take it up another notch. Radio versus a car. That's a tough one. Certain parts of the world, you can't be a police officer without having a car. You're not going to run after someone whilst they're in a car. So they go, stupid, don't ask that question. I've got to have a radio and I've got to have a car. So we're not going to go there. Okay, which one needs to be more reliable? And they go, duh, the radio. The car breaks down, I get on the radio and say the car's broken down. So we do this simple little test to say, where's the value in what the officer carries that keeps them alive? It's also that conversation that you may need to have with your superiors in terms of securing budgets. What's the important thing? It's also for the manufacturers community to understand that we need to deliver equipment that works faultlessly every single time. We also need to invest more in R&D than a gun, more in R&D than in protective armor. I wouldn't say more than R&D than a police car. There's a lot of R&D in a police car. But we've got to make sure that we have equipment that lasts for a very long time in the field. So I'm going to focus on here 4 key areas which are going to be part of the mission-critical communications of the future. The first one is one size does not fit all. The second area is going to be about something I think is dear to many people's hearts right now, an efficiency focus, particularly from a fiscal perspective. The third area will be, what is the future technologies coming along, and what does that mean for TETRA, and when do they come? And the final area is about the applications. So let's talk about one size does not fit all. In 2000, many of the TETRA networks are being deployed for the first time. Predominantly, and the standard was predominantly started out to support what we sometimes call blue lights: ambulance, fire, police. Very, very quickly, what we saw were other markets taking that technology. In fact, in some areas of the world, transportation led the rollout of TETRA. Some areas of the world, they use it for even hospitality, resorts, etc. They began to see the benefits of TETRA for these mission-critical or operations-critical, business-critical needs that they have in their own organizations. So you're seeing a diversity, and that diversity is reflected in this audience from the TETRA user community. We have to reflect that diversity in the needs and the capabilities of the TETRA solutions that we deliver. But not only that, the days are gone now of treating even police as one monolithic block. One radio for police, that will do, are gone forever. As we mature as a standard and as an industry, we have to listen more, be more attentive to the different segments of the different needs of the different types of officer inside just one of those verticals, never mind the other verticals. So when we talk about a police officer, some police officers will have traffic wardens attached to their organization, superintendents, detectives, beat officers in high urban crime rates, beat officers in rural areas. You today are compensating for the vanilla TETRA radio with accessories. So you're actually starting to put solutions together with your accessories and radios that reflect the different demands from the different segments inside your public safety organization. It's time that the industry, and this is a trend we believe will happen from many of the manufacturers, to deliver tailored solutions to each of those segments. But what it means to us is that we've got to use our mouth and ears in that proportion. We've got to listen and be very attentive to the needs of this more increasingly sophisticated audience. Now, the next area is an area that I think is causing a lot of angst for many police and government departments around the world, particularly here in Western Europe. I was going to ask the question to put your hands up, anybody whose budgets are going up. But I realized that if anyone did put their hand up on that question, they would find themselves extremely popular with all the vendors in this audience and probably get mobbed as they left the door. So I'm not going to answer that question. But really, this is about doing more with less. How can you reduce your budget, but do more, be more effective as an organization? That is extremely difficult. And when we consider about the simplest thing that you could do, and may be asked to do, is where you have 2 officers, you now have 1. Covers more ground, gets more things done. That lifeline I talked about, that's far more important now. That officer is on their own. That is their only call, their only backup. That is the first indication of what efficiency means, particularly people who put their lives at risk every single day. But what more are we doing, and what trends do we see in the manufacturing community to help reduce the costs to you, our customers? Well, if we take a look at the radios or subscribers, what you're going to see is an increasing trend on what we call receiver sensitivity. What that actually means is the radio can hear better. It's more sensitive to the signal being sent out from the base station or the cell site. What does that mean? It means that you can deploy less infrastructure. Or it means where you have holes in coverage or degradation, or maybe patchy in-building coverage, you may have a chance of having a better penetration there and having a better signal in that area. So that helps something in the radio, helps something in the network to reduce your costs. We estimate up to 20% reduction in cell sites. And anyone who's deployed a radio network will know that cell sites are a huge expense from civils, infrastructure, and of course the telecommunications equipment. The next area is managing those radios. As Peter mentioned, he's got a large force. We've got TETRA radios. Managing a large fleet of radios is very problematic. You're asking for radios that last 3, 4, 5, or even more number of years. So you'll probably go through 5 or 6 cell phones for one radio that you have in your network. To do that and to keep it current, you need to upgrade it in the software. So upgrading the software on radios, which is a feature that all manufacturers provide, is a complicated and time-consuming exercise. We want to reduce that. We want to make it automatic so that when you put the radio in the charger, if it needs to be software upgraded, it's upgraded there and then. No one needs to be aware of it. It's just done. And that way, the radios aren't decommissioned out of the field. You don't need a fleet, an army of people to go and individually plug into a radio and charge it. And you don't have to hold a reserve stock of radios whilst those radios are out of commission to give to the officers on the beat. That saves approximately, depending on the fleet size that you have, about 70,000 minutes. It's all very well doing this, and then if we go and charge a huge price and offsets it, it makes it very difficult for you to justify that cost. So we know we set the pricing here so you can get a payback in under 1 year. Those are the kind of conversations that we unfortunately hear that you're having with your superiors in terms of budgets. In addition to that, what we're also adding on is the capability for the radio itself now to be the radio monitoring solution. So whilst the officer is using the radio, wherever they may be, it's compiling all the radio statistics, the RF coverage, signal strength, the quality. When you plug that radio in, that charger, it may not be software upgraded that time, but that information from the radio is sent back. Suddenly, you're in a situation where you know whether there's a hole in coverage, where you know if your officers change their beat, or where they're covering to see some issues. So rather than a groundswell of angry officers or end users going, we have a real problem here in this network with coverage, go sort it out, the conversation goes, we're noticing that you may have a problem, and we're working on it. I think that makes for a much better collaboration between the people who run and own the network to the people who actually use that network. Now, if we look at the infrastructure side, a lot of people deploy infrastructure for a very long time. There are a number of people here who are deciding whether to deploy infrastructure, and there are a number of people here who are deciding whether to upgrade existing or renew or refresh their infrastructure. Again, times have moved a lot. From where we started today and where we started from where we are today, the capacity on a zone is almost doubled. That means as you've grown your network, you can now add that capacity, or it means you have less zone controllers or zones required because you've got that high capacity solution. In addition, we've also made sure that we've adopted the latest IT techniques to reduce the power consumption. It's a huge cost. We estimate we can get the power consumption down by 70% on a zone. We also get the size that it takes up reduced very significantly indeed. And when you consider over 30% of your costs are actually rental costs, that's a big impact on the operational costs. So those year in and year out costs, we are determined to reduce as an industry to do that. In addition, as we move to these types of solutions, we want to make something that makes people take a deep, deep breath and one step backward less of an issue. And that is a major software upgrade. We know that you need to do software upgrades, and we as the industry promote software upgrades, but you go, hang on a minute, that's a disruption that I don't want to do too often, and it gives me a big headache, and I have to plan a lot before I go do that. We are determined to make that software upgrade a lot more easier, a lot less disruptive, so that you can upgrade much more frequently if you wish to, but with a lot less interruption of service. Now, if we move on to the next area, is TETRA's broadband future. Okay? This is an area of evolution and discussion at the moment. The first thing you should be very, very aware, there is no standard to replace TETRA. Remember, it's a public safety standard designed by public safety, for public safety, and increasingly now by business critical users who need the operational critical communications. You control this standard. Mission critical voice will always be on TETRA. There is nothing that we can see coming through right now that's going to change that. So whatever vision of the future, whatever technology, and I haven't got time to go around all of these different areas, TETRA will be at the heart of it. We will add data. We will do that with TEDS. We will do that with TETRA. We will do that with maybe a future broadband technology. The technology that a number of us are looking at is long-term evolution. But be under no mistake, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, your communications are going to be extremely voice-centric. They're going to be augmented onto, added to with data and video capabilities. But human beings in stressful situations respond to voice, react quickly to voice, can assess a situation with voice. When you change a talk group, it will be changed in TETRA, and everything else will slave off that. Video, images, data have to follow that talk group, which puts TETRA right in the center of any future telecommunications that should come. It's also worthwhile to know how long that will be. What will be the time of this coming? We believe the success of TETRA has been fundamentally an open standard that allows many different manufacturers, that provides you great choice, and quite frankly forces manufacturers to be highly innovative and highly competitive. It's a win-win situation. We believe also that public safety need to have their own private spectrum. Arguments will be made, people, maybe superior people, maybe people at very high levels will see cellular networks operating all the time, and they think, you know what? Is data mission critical or not? Could I use it on a commercial network? That decision on whether data is mission critical is your decision to make. But even last week, a major cellular operator in the UK went offline for 16 hours on a weekday, cutting 3 million subscribers clean off the network. No voice, no SMS, no data. A commercial cellular network in the UK. Is that a news story? No, because it happened before with another network operator in the UK. What happened? Somebody broke into the premises and stole some IT equipment, and that took the network down for 16 hours. You want to share your communications with operators that have been around for 20 years? With that kind of track history, when you really need it, you're going to need private spectrum and your own networks of some shape or form, which you have control of. So when does the next generation of public safety come? In Western Europe, and I'm going to talk in European Union, what we need to do is to get that private spectrum. It's going to take us quite some time. It's going to require a unified voice, not only between public safety, but more than likely between other communities that are represented in the other vertical segments. Because we will have to prove to the powers that be that public safety will need their own dedicated spectrum and will need it against the commercial interests of people who will pay handsomely for that spectrum. And it takes many years for us to get that organized and ratified and harmonized in the European Union. We estimate it could take anywhere between 6 to 10 years for that to happen. Hopefully it will come. Hopefully as an organization we can have a unified voice for that to make sure that we can lobby that spectrum. North America is doing this right now. They are at least 6 years ahead of us in their current way they're doing it. So that gives you a timeline. With TEDS, that will allow you to have data capability. And TEDS is an evolving standard itself. You'll be able to do images being sent on there and slow frame rate video as well. I started with this slide, and I'm coming back to it because of applications. Sometimes it's good to learn from other people's mistakes. Around 2000, 2001, the cellular community were parading 3G as the next big thing. And very commonly used was, what is the one killer app? Well, here we are 10 years later, and there wasn't one killer app. There's one app, two apps, 1,000 apps, 10,000 apps, 100,000 apps. So again, I think a trend you're going to see from the manufacturing community is that we have to create an applications community that find it very easy to use open APIs to write the applications for the individual needs of all our customers. That rich ecosystem will drive the vitality the vibrancy and the dynamism inside TETRA. So we see this big trend in the industry that open APIs will come, and it will be easier for all the applications providers here to write applications specifically targeted and tailored to the needs of the many varied customers that we have in TETRA. Okay, I'm about to lose my chocolate, so I'm going to try hard on this. The commitment the manufacturing community is making to you is we will continuously innovate in TETRA. The vibrant dynamic standard, we will do a lot to reduce the cost pressures that you're seeing today to help drive them down. We will listen to provide a portfolio of radios to meet your needs. And we will drive more new features that will actually help our applications partners. We will do applications, they will do applications, to drive a much more greater utility inside the network. As Peter said, these networks can do amazing things, and you may be only just scratching the surface with what you've got today, and it can do a whole lot more. Remember that what we're doing here as a forum all together is making sure that we have increased further innovation for the moments that matter. Because when those moments come, it'll be people out in the field that'll be thanking us, but not aware of what we're doing now and in the future for the work that we do in TETRA. Thank you very much.